So the first thing I want to start with is that no, there's nothing wrong with this video. The screen has been intentionally left black because I feel it's important when discussing about sound to really be immersed in it. And that means we can get rid of the pretense of the standard video production model of things constantly moving to keep your attention, with sounds accompanying them to give them more weight in your mind. We're keeping the screen black because it's important every now and again to go back to first principles. And foundationally, that first principle for sound is the lack of visual. In the golden age of radio, which was back in the 1920s and ended, I would have to say, somewhere around the 1940s with the mass consumer adoption of television, radio was sound, and sound was all there was. Sound was the purest of mediums available to people outside of paintings. You could sit in your living room and listen to news and listen to the stories they were telling, whether it was fiction or nonfiction, telling the day's events or taking you to some fantastical world. And it was just sound. It occupied a single sense. So when understanding sound, when trying to understand sound, we should stop and ask a very fundamental question. What are we listening to? I don't mean like understanding the individual sounds. Here is a person's voice. Here is a sample being played. Here's a sound effect. Here's background music. The question is, what are we listening to? And the answer is, well, it gets a little tricky. Because to answer what are we listening to, we first have to figure out what is listening. Hearing is the sense. It's the action your body partakes when using, at least for humans, ears and the eardrums and the little hairs inside of your inner ear to physically take in the pressure waves created by, in this case, the speakers on your desk or the headphones placed in or on your ears. That's hearing. That's the physical action. But what is listening? Listening is a far more active process. It's an attempt to take this physical sensation and make meaningful sense out of it. If you ever have had a parent talking to you and you just sort of space out, and then they say, "Hey, are you listening to me?" You may say yes because you could physically hear them and you were absorbing the pressure waves created by their mouth and their throat and their vocal folds. But the question isn't whether or not you were doing that physical process. The question they asked you was, were you understanding me? Were you dedicating your attention, or at least part of it, to what I was saying to try to take out meaning from it? That's listening. That is the active listening that I'm asking about. So, what are we listening to when we listen to a film, or we listen to a radio play, or we listen to anything? We're listening for meaning. So the individual component sounds, whether it's the atmos of a cafe or the sounds of a tire screech, those individual sounds, even the dialogue, are individually meaningless. The meaning is the combination of all those sounds across time. Because you can't listen to a single moment. You can't do that. That's not how listening works. That's not how sound works. You can listen to time. So listening is taking in the meaning of a situation through time. The meaning of audio through time.